Time for 8 o'clock, and a historical day for numerous reasons. One, Camden has not had a commission meeting. If we did, it's been a long time, but when?
2007.
2007. So it's been about 18 years, and so it's great to be back in my hometown, in my home county. We had yesterday was the day of all days for lots of things. Last night was unbelievable, but as you can see, yesterday morning we started out getting to tour our beautiful Ouachita County, White Oak State Park, White Oak Lake. We got to see the Poison Springs area and talk about all things from burning to turkeys to everything that you love to see in woodland management. And it was just a fantastic day. And getting to be there at that spot just memorialized the day. So welcome to Camden. And this is also our last meeting of the year. It's my last meeting. And so it is a special day for me, and we'll talk more about that in the moments to come. We have a lot of guests I want to welcome before we get started. And thank you, Anne Marie, for getting all this put together. She always has my back, y'all. I'll share more on that in a minute. We have an honor to have Commissioner Bobby Martin with us. Bobby, thank you, and Margie, for coming down. And as I mentioned last night, every former commissioner has poured into me and poured into each one of us. The saying, iron sharpens iron, is so appropriate. And Bobby, I just want to say thank you for all that you have done for me and mentoring me through our years together, and I treasure every moment we've had. You're a special commissioner, and we welcome you. Grant Westmoreland is here. Grant, raise your hand right beside Bobby. Grant, thank you for all you do for the Snack Stick program, for being an ambassador all over the state, and killing turkeys. He is a killing machine. Man after my own heart. Roger Mangum. Roger, a great friend back there in the back, and another mentor of mine, and running the TNC and doing a fabulous job. And it was great to have you on our tour yesterday and to share your wisdom of our partnerships and how we all collaborate together. It's just a great day out there in the field. Corey Dunn with Ducks Unlimited. Corey, thank you again for all you do, representing not just Ducks Unlimited, but Corey is down here in this end of the world, leading our Lower Ouachita private lands burning group. And when you talk about boots on the ground and grassroots and everybody working together, Corey is leading the charge down here to keep us all in our burn association. So, Corey, thank you for being here today and all you do. Wade Andrews, our representative down here, it's great to have you with us. And, Wade, thank you for your service to the state and representing our Ouachita County and all of us down here. You're doing a great job. We've got several commissioner spouses here that are always special. I'm looking at Sherry Jones back there. Thank you, Sherry, and Nikki Finley. And then we've got Gina back there. I'm looking right through. I can see Gina. Special day, the last couple of days with all of y'all. And then, of course, my wife, Beth. Y'all will miss her way more than you miss me, I promise. And Joe Doremus is here. Joe, right there. Great to have you with us, brother, and it's been fun wish we could have gone turkey hunting again yesterday. And Joe got his first turkey with Anne Marie, and I got to watch Joe Doremus get hooked on turkey, Grant. I'm telling you, when you see a smile that goes up like this after getting a turkey and a shout that went up into the air, you know you're hooked. And I know Joe will be killing turkeys for many years to come now. And then we've got Jen Ballard is, I can see her arm. Of course, Jen's no stranger to this family, and Jen, you are always part of this family, and your mark on AGFC will go on for decades with the impact you've had in leading our research division, and now you're over at the Heritage and continuing to be a great partner. It was also fun to be with you on the tour yesterday and getting to talk about all that Natural Heritage does in the preserving these critical habitats. And we have so many of them right here in this Ouachita, Nevada County area, as y'all can see there. And we have a special guest, too, here from the past to help welcome y'all to Camden. This is a time traveler that I've called in to introduce y'all to maybe not the Camden of today, but the Camden from a few years back. Let's welcome Miss Kathy Boyette.
Good morning. Good to be here. I do have to tell you that no self-respecting Southern belle would be dressed up this early, especially without help like I did it. I'm a historian, and when I was asked to do this, of course, although I know all this history of Ouachita County, I just couldn't resist digging around and finding what I hoped would be new and interesting things that you all would be interested in. But I'll probably get out of that mode pretty quickly because I'd rather tell a good story. Camden's one of the oldest settlements in Arkansas. It was developed actually early in the 1600s or late in the 1600s and on a bluff above the Ouachita River. And can you imagine how that looked that many years ago, pristine and looking down on that flowing river? Of course, it was a safe place to be. There were indigenous people here, and so from a bluff, and we've used them ever since, by the way, even in the Civil War, you could see who was coming, and so you could protect yourself or hide or whatever you needed to do. So the first settlement in this area was Ecourt Fabre, developed by a French trapper named Fabre, and that means Faber's Bluff is what the translation of that is. After that area was developed, the French ceded these lands to the Spanish, and things changed a bit. They hired a Frenchman to come and develop a military facility up on the hill where Ecourt Fabre was in 1782. Then after the Louisiana Purchase, the Thomas Jefferson, of course you all know about Lewis and Clark, but there was in our area the Hunter-Dunbar expedition. How many of y'all are familiar with that? Oh, well, you need to read about that. It's amazing. But they left New Orleans. Ironically, one of them decided the most perfect vessel to be traveling up these rivers with would be a Chinese junk. Are y'all familiar with those kind of boats? Vaguely, yeah. Well, nobody here was either, and it took a while to get them built, and they only lasted as far as Monroe. And they left them there and got the traditional keel boats to come up river. They went all the way to Hot Springs, and they came through Ecourt Fabre and made note of that and did a lot of research in Hot Springs. They wintered there, perfect place, warm water and all that kind of stuff. And so after that, things riverboats were already starting to come up from the Ouachita River. Come up from New Orleans, and there were farmers here, and there were cotton fields and all kinds of crops that went down the river, and supplies came back up, and it was a riverboat coming to the county here, or Ouachita, at the riverboat where they came as far as they could go, was a great event. People came from all over, and it was like a big holiday, and sometimes as many as several a day docked here. And it was a prosperous town, and actually in the early part, say 1842, Camden was one of the largest cities, the second largest actually, in the state of Arkansas. Now, I know none of you believe that, do you? But it's the truth. And it was that way up until the Civil War. And I listened to y'all talking about driving around the county and everything. Well, ironically, I was in some of the same places you were yesterday, Poison Spring, because we were developing a route for a tour tomorrow of some people coming in from Little Rock. And we took a wrong turn, and we got on a dirt road. And I know every county judge hates dirt roads. It wasn't gravel, not a lick of it. And luckily we hadn't had any rains, or I would probably be still there today. I got to looking to see if we'd brought enough water bottles, because we had no signal. We couldn't even tell anybody where to come and get us. And but it was fascinating. I think I can tell you where a turkey is, if you're interested.
Y'all record that.
Yeah. and quite a few deer. And I thought to myself, can you imagine the reason why Camden is here is because it was on a navigable river. You know, that road was bad, don't get me wrong, but there were no roads when they came up here. The best way to travel was up that sweet little river. And so that's why it was developed like it was. The road to Old Washington, or what we call Old Washington, was another addition, and John Nunn, one of our earliest settlers, developed that and was an important person in Camden as well. But the history most people really want to hear about is our Civil War history. And Camden is, it's the highlight of the Camden Expedition. And how many of y'all are familiar with that? If you've traveled the roads, you've seen our signs. We are now a scenic byway, starting at the Arkansas Military Museum in MacArthur Park. And the route is available. You can get our brochures in any visitor information center, and here in Camden at the museum and the Chamber of Commerce. I should have brought some, but we're running low, and I couldn't give all you one. Sorry. You have to go get your own. But it's an amazing route where General Frederick Steele was headed to Texas. It was actually the Red River Expedition, or the Red River Campaign. And unfortunately, they didn't have the supplies they needed here in Arkansas, and all of South Arkansas was still securely Confederate. And so they were heading to Texas, actually. And General Steele was to meet up with another person who he was just sure would bring supplies, because he didn't have very many. Unfortunately, after several little skirmishes and a lot of misunderstandings and no supplies forthcoming, he decided to circle back to Camden, because it was a riverboat town. Supplies came in. He just knew that that was going to be his gold mine. And so that's what he did, and there were many skirmishes. Y'all came through Poison Spring, and there were actually two there, a small rear action campaign on the way into Camden, and then the Battle of Poison Spring. That's what they call it. It's an interesting battle while he was here. But to me, when I think about this town, I told you second largest in the city, in this state. It was probably 2,200 people at that time. And over half, I'm sure, had left for the war. So here we are in Washington Street. 3 or 4 of the houses that were there then are still there on Washington. So you can get a good idea. But women and children stood on their porches that day in April 1864, maybe 1,000 to 1,200 of them, no men around except maybe some of the Union sympathizers, and 12,000 soldiers marched up that road, which, by the way, was not paved then. I'm sure you know that. Can you imagine the cloud of dust? Can you imagine the terror in those women's minds? You know, they knew with certainty that their homes would be burned to the ground when this army left. It was the plan. Unfortunately for them, or for General Steele, there weren't any more supplies here either, because the Confederates were all out in the woods and they were foraging just like the Union Army was. And I bet most people owning a farm in Washita and Nevada and Union County even hated to see gray or blue come their way, because they knew they were going to have to share their hard-won, hard-earned food with these hungry soldiers. Luckily, as I saw yesterday, they probably had deer and wild turkey and squirrels and rabbits and all kinds of things that they could use. But the Union soldiers were not used to that kind of thing, and so they were looking for supplies, and they took everything they could. They camped literally everywhere. I bet you couldn't walk anywhere without falling over a soldier somewhere. And one of my favorite stories is one of the McCollum girls, Kate McCollum, and her sister was Virginia McCollum Stinson, lived right on Washington, and she caught a soldier stealing a cow that they had babies. They needed that milk. And she took a stick to him and chased him off. And so she was a brave woman, but she knew how badly they needed that cow for the babies. And so she did what she had to do with no weapon beyond a stick. But that war was devastating to Camden. And I would say it might have never recovered, except that we have amazing, enterprising people in this area. And they're not, Mr. Neely grew up here, but these people, most of them didn't. They came here from all over. But they were smart, and they were enterprising, and they didn't have any YouTube or cell phones to distract them from the business at hand. And so they used their brains, and they got a lot done. Camden is famous for grapette. How many of y'all have ever drank a cold grapette? Nothing like it, is there? Or Kmart pottery. I learned something. For years, I had Kmart pottery. One of my husband's relatives worked at that factory, as did a lot of people here. And I thought it was okay pottery, but I didn't find out till later they shipped the good stuff away from here. And we had all the seconds down here in Camden. So if you want to see what Kmart pottery really could be, you need to go to the Kmart Cottage here in Camden. You will be totally amazed at the beautiful things that were produced here and sold all over the United States and now are extremely valuable. It's a wonderful place still to live. We're still on the beautiful river, and now we're known more as the little town that is helping to save Ukraine. And I don't think that's bad, do you? Well, wars have played an important part in our community, and evidently they still are. And I thank you all for being here. He only gave me 10 minutes.
Well,
and I might be done.
Thank you for that warm welcome and sharing a lot about our history in the early days. And
y'all come back.
And that's right. We hope to have everybody back. Well, with that, we're officially called to order. So welcome again to this last meeting of our 2025 year. I am Chairman J.D. Neely, and like to welcome everybody again to this meeting here in Camden. y'all please join me with Chaplain George Goins. Will offer a prayer and then a pledge, and then we'll begin the meeting.
All right. Thank you for letting us be here. It's an honor always to be able to represent Arkansas Game and Fish and to be able to open in prayer. So thank you so much for letting us be here. Father, as we come in the name of Jesus, we love you and we thank you for who you are and how you present yourself in your creation. And we're grateful for that. We're grateful, Lord, that you give us safety, and you've been with all of us as we've traveled and done the things that we've had to do to get here. We're thankful for that as well. We're also, Lord, asking for wisdom. We ask that you would give wisdom as this leadership looks to making decisions, that you would give wisdom and direction. As well as, Lord, I pray you'll be with all of our officers and all those that participate in the field, that you would keep them safe, Lord, as they do their job. Again, we just want to say thank you for letting us be here and to be alive this morning. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right, Commissioners, first we need an approval of today's agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to this agenda as presented? Got a motion from Anne Marie Doremus. Need a second? Second from Commissioner Finley. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion is approved and the agenda is approved. All right. We have, and no stranger to this crowd as well, and glad to have you, Deke. About a month ago, we had kind of the annual wrap-up or semi-annual report from the foundation. Got to be a part of that. Ben Batten was with me up in Springdale. And I'm telling you, when I heard all that the foundation had done this year and all that they're doing, I told Deke I wanted him to come and share that with all the commissioners and the staff and directorate because we couldn't be more proud, Deke, of all the things y'all are doing. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. So as some of y'all may know, the chairman of the Game and Fish Commission serves as an ex officio board member of the Game and Fish Foundation. And for those of you who don't know, the Game and Fish Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit set up to support the Game and Fish Commission. So, yes, JD was with us in Springdale, and he came up to me after and goes, Deke, you've got to tell all this at the commission meeting in June. And, I talked for about an hour and a half up there at the board meeting. And I said, I don't think I'm going to do that, JD. So I put a little different twist on today. And I'm actually going to go back through a history of the foundation and our formation and then kind of talk through the years and then where we are today. And after those last remarks, I don't know that I'm dressed properly to give a history lesson, but I do want to try to get into this a little bit and talk about the formation of the foundation. So I want to rewind back to the 1970s, late 70s and early 80s. And in those days, the commission was facing a critical challenge funding its mission. The revenue was simply not enough from hunting license sales, and Arkansas wasn't alone in this position. There were several other states across the country or conservation agencies across the country that faced the same challenges. And so in 1979, the commission hired a young man at the age of 35 of Steve N. Wilson, and you see Director Wilson's picture there. He was an AGFC biologist, took the helm at the agency at a critical time and was tasked with finding solutions to address the funding needs. Soon after he came on as director, an idea sparked his interest in creating a foundation or a nonprofit. And it's very unique in state government to have a nonprofit supporting, but as we know, the commission's unique in its own way as a state agency. So this is really neat. Some of these pictures we see here are from the Arkansas Wildlife Magazine. It was called something different back in those days, but it was a lot of fun work with Jeff Williams and I in his office looking back through those old bound books and magazines finding. We also found some meeting minutes. This is May 17, 1982. And way at the back of the agenda there was an old business that notified that a Game and Fish Foundation had been formed. They elected Fay Wright as president, all these were commissioners, by the way. Ross Whipple was vice president. The director, Steve N. Wilson, served as the secretary, and Dr. Rex Hancock as treasurer. Really neat to get the new group going. Again, we're looking for funding solutions. The new group really started working on ideas and ways to accomplish this, and really they just looked to the north of Missouri. You know, in 1976, Missouri passed the first ever dedicated conservation sales tax funded, and so this was an effort of one of the early efforts of the foundation was to help support the commission and try to get this campaign going. And back then, it was known as Amendment 2. And I kind of think through my research that it was Amendment 2 all the way up to what we now know as Amendment 75. But it actually went on the ballot in 1984, fell short by about 10 points, I think. And then there was another attempt in 1986 to get it, but it never made it to the ballot, and so on and so forth. But the young group wasn't deterred from this, and they continued building a board across the state, engaging in community leaders, and continue to try to build momentum for the eventual increase or amendment. Another initiative, early initiative of the foundation helping support was the duck stamp. Not only the duck stamp, but the duck stamp print. States like Ohio, California, Illinois had found success in issuing state duck stamps that mimicked the federal stamp that raised hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars over the years to support habitat projects. And the foundation was tasked with sourcing the artists for this. So we're trying to mimic the federal duck stamp in the prints, which took place back in, I think, the 30s maybe is when that federal started. And so Dr. Rex Hancock, pictured down in the bottom right, he was tasked with starting the duck stamp program. And soon after Dr. Hancock did, we see Larry Grisham from Jonesboro. He's pictured in the top right with Steve N. Wilson and Steve Smith. We still have the duck stamp print program today. We're going to unveil it at the Hall of Fame banquet. It is a gorgeous picture, and I can't wait to share that with y'all. So anyway, this kept the foundation busy and going too. Again, there was no director hired until 1992. So this is all just voluntary, people coming on and trying to be part of the solution. So Steve Smith hired in 1982. One of the first things that Steve did was, with others, is created the Outdoor Hall of Fame banquet on September 18, 1992. And some great pictures that we found from that initial banquet. This was an event, really the idea was, as it is today, a fundraiser for the organization. It was also a way to recognize champions of conservation across the state and to tell the good news about the Game and Fish Commission. So I love these pictures, and I think Jeff Williams, who's watching, or somebody the historian needs to verify, but I think the guy down here on the microphone is my MC for is that Wildman? Can anybody confirm that? He's been there since the beginning. So isn't that fun to see? The initial class of the Outdoor Hall of Fame banquet, Ruth and Raleigh Rimmel, Henry Gray, Ben Pearson, Dr. Neil Compton, and you see a picture there, Forrest L. Wood. So it was a successful night. It was also a night to revisit and kick off an awareness campaign for another run at conservation funding. So we'll fast forward then to 1996, and at this time it was an all-out campaign. This time, however, the commission and foundation worked with partners at state parks and state parks and tourism, Arkansas Heritage, and Arkansas Beautiful Commission, and they picked up a crucial endorsement in newly elected Governor Mike Huckabee. A passionate outdoorsman and recreational angler, Governor Huckabee participated in what I've dubbed the Arkansas River Whistle Stop Tour in 1996. And some of y'all know this story about putting in Fort Smith and making the journey all the way down to Dumas. It was a 4-day, 267-mile flotilla, and they stopped along the way, kind of having campaign rallies and trying to garner support for what, again, was known as Amendment 2. As we know, in 1996, they got it over the hump there, and just by the narrowest of margins, but Arkansas made history by becoming only the second state in the nation to have a dedicated conservation fund. So here's what we know when we see Amendment 75. So as we know, one of a very visible outcome of Amendment 75 was our education centers across the state. So now we're in the late 90s, early 2000s somewhere, and Steve Smith and the foundation turned their attention to parts of rural Arkansas where we might not have some of these nature centers. And one of the first ones they took on was what we know as Potlatch Conservation Education Center at Cooks Lake. This is a neat facility. Many of you have been down there before, but this was originally the Lion Oil Company Hunting Club, right? So that was built in 1947, I think, and then Potlatch Corporation took over in 71. Partnership between Game and Fish Commission, Foundation, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and Potlatch it eventually became what we know now as the Education Center. It's a great spot for mentored hunts and for education programming in southeast Arkansas. So soon after the doors opened at Cooks Lake, we turned our attention up to north central Arkansas, and this is at the Fred Berry Conservation Education Center. Mr. Fred Berry was a retired school teacher in the Yellville district and gave a very generous donation of about 421 acres, I believe, to the foundation located along Crooked Creek. Both of these facilities are operated today by our education division. The foundation still retains ownership, but we've got a long-term lease and agreement with the agency for the division to run. So this is what kind of these foundation was doing there in the early 2000s. Fast forward into 2006, and that's when the youth shooting sports program came on. It saw immediate explosive growth for the program and popularity across the state. To help meet the demand of this rapid growth, the commission, the foundation partnered with the city of Jacksonville to undertake a $2 million capital campaign to build what we know now as the Game and Fish Foundation Shooting Sports Complex out in Jacksonville, which is the home to our state tournament, which we just wrapped up, and it continues to grow. And as we know that this model is one that is desired across the state. We've seen other cities and counties across try to mimic and model this, and it was just a heck of an effort, and it took a lot of time. I know Bobby Martin was actually chair of the foundation back in those days and deserves a lot of credit for helping get that facility out of the ground. So that was a lot of work, wasn't it, Bobby? Good work. Back in those days. So anyway, we'll fast forward to 2017. Look at that young man full of hair. He was ready to take on the world. This is on, I look back, this is January 3rd, 2017, and Trey Reed popped in my office. He goes, "Come on out here, man. You need to take a picture with me." And this guy, y'all sponsored I have no idea what we sponsored or won, but we took a picture with this fella, and look how happy he is there in the middle. He won something with me, and I walked in, and to be honest with y'all, I did not know what I'm getting into in this foundation gig. I have no nonprofit experience for raising money, but I just was excited about it. And I left a real estate kind of starting of a career to come over and do this, and it's just been an incredible run. You know, J.D. Neely was a board member back then. I talked about that last night, and so he was representing South Arkansas on the board. And a year later, the governor at the time selected J.D. to come onto the commission, and our organization since have seen growth. And what we've seen more important than that, though, is our relationships coming together. I mean, each one of you all in the room and the folks watching, our board members, commissioners, directorate, we work as a team. We pull in the right direction, and that's what Stephen Wilson envisioned back in the early '80s. So it's been a great partnership success story, I'd say. So, JD, I was going to kind of frame this as, since you left the board, we've done X, Y, and Z. But I say together, here's what we've done over the past 7 years. I'm just going to run through some highlights and say, since 2018, the foundation has raised a little over $30 million through campaigns and fundraisers. We have added staff to help support our mission. We have ribbon cut at the Northwest Arkansas Nature Center. We've added 16 or 17 new events across the state. There is something for people to come and attend and be a part of in every corner, from golf tournaments to fishing tournaments. You see the Simmons Farm in the bottom corner there. It's just a Mountain Home event there in the top left. The backer program. I mean, there is a lot to go on, JD, and I could have done that from our meeting, but I just thought, how cool would it be to kind of look back? And I've learned a lot looking back through this. I mean, this is an organization that I love and an organization for y'all that I love to support. So it's been a lot of fun doing it too. So again, JD, this may look a little different than what maybe we're anticipating, but I just thought, again, it'd be kind of neat to go back through. It's a great reminder that we all stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. To help shape this really beautiful partnership that we have. So, again, thank you for allowing me to present today. I do want to talk about a new tradition that we've started a few years ago, and the chairman will talk to this maybe a little bit later, but as some of y'all recall, this is the chairman's journal entitled Iron Sharpens Iron, so bear with me here for just a minute. I'm going to talk to you about this. In 2020, Arkansas Game and Fish Foundation board member Marshall Hughes commissioned a custom knife that was to have been auctioned at a foundation fundraiser. Unexpectedly, Marshall passed away before the event took place, and instead of auctioning the knife, which is sitting right there in front of the chairman, we started a new tradition to honor his memory. Marshall held the heart and spirit of the foundation. The knife represents a tool The knife represents a tool for the value, the resource, and the role the foundation plays for the commission. In this new tradition, the knife will follow the passing of the gavel from outgoing chairman to incoming chairman. As iron sharpens iron, one partner sharpens another. Accompanying the knife will be this chairman's journal, allowing the opportunity for the outgoing chairman to pass a message of wisdom, encouragement, and hope to the incoming chairman of the agency, once again symbolic of Proverbs 27:17. So we'll do that at the end of the meeting. JD, here's the journal.
Thank you, Deke. And let's give Deke and the foundation a round. You know, I asked Deke to give y'all an update, and Deke, thank you for this history. It was good for us to reflect back. It's always good to take time to remember where we came from and how we've grown, because if we don't do that, we really don't have a perspective of really how far we've come, the progress we've made. But then what we heard Ben and I did when we were at the meeting just over a month ago at Springdale was the vision for the future. And we saw and heard just so much, and so much excitement at the foundation with all of their group. Great leadership, by the way, of all their foundation board members, and what they do for us, and the partnership and the camaraderie and the spirit and the teamwork has never been better. And so I just wanted Deke to come and to share some updates. And again, Deke, thank you for that. This is a special memento of this passing of the gavel that Bobby, you got to start your year in passing the gavel to Stan. And this will go on for generations to come. And it got to start with you, so thank you again for helping get that started. One item of housekeeping I forgot to do, and Anne Marie, as y'all know, always keeps me straight. And I forgot to have an approval of the May 22nd commission meeting notes. Are there any additions or deletions?
I'll move to
All right, we've got a motion to approve these minutes. Second, all in favor say aye. Aye. All right, so clean that up, and we'll keep moving along. Thank you, Anne Marie. Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, me being a forester, it's always good to hear anything about a tree, and so we are honored today to have a professor over from my alma mater, UAM, and we're going to hear a report on red oak dormancy research. And Mr. Bapps, if you want to make your way up, Luke, I think, will introduce you, but y'all know we started this research, Luke, several years ago.
Yeah, we did. So, yeah, good morning, everyone. So I'll introduce Dr. Ben Bapps from University of Arkansas, Monticello. Yeah, when we kicked off, really started rolling on Green Tree Reservoir renovation work, one of the biggest questions in front of us that we get asked. I got asked this by a concerned citizen on the drive down here the other day. So when do trees go dormant? And as we started that process, amazingly, nobody's ever answered that question with real science. And so we said, well, that's a need. We need to figure that out. So we did the whole, RFQ process, figured things out, and we were fortunate enough to have a tree ecophysiologist here in our state at UAM. So we're able to work with Dr. Bapps for several years now. We're 5 years into this thing. A lot of work. I did a lot of work with this when I was a waterfowl guy. Brett Leach is overseeing the contract. Jason Buck Jackson has done a ton of work with this. Rob Willie, our foresters. A whole team of folks at Game and Fish have helped see this through, and I think it's some pretty interesting information. So, Dr. Bapps, have at it.
Thank you, and I'm glad to be here. So the problem we're addressing is the widespread stress in red oak trees to the point of die-off in some GTRs. And also, if you look at the younger generation, in a lot of places, there's insufficient healthy seedlings in the understory to replace those trees. So the ultimate goal of this research is to identify some strategies to protect or to reduce the flood stress of these red oak trees that we'd like to keep in the bottomland hardwood forests that waterfowl use so that we can sustain them for years to come. So we want to know, maybe I should, okay, back up. We want to know how to protect mature trees. We want to know how to protect seedlings so that as the trees age out, or if those older trees that got stressed as they die out, we can replace those and have regeneration that can thrive in the years to come. And I understand working in a context that any management action to protect the trees needs to account for the needs of the waterfowl as well. So one of the big keys to understanding the stress of these red oak trees and green tree reservoirs is the flood regime. Now, the natural flood regime, this gives you some idea of what it may have looked like, is more of a pulse flood system centered around winter, early spring. And what we've done in green tree reservoirs typically is we flood deeper, it's flooded continuously, and it floods earlier than these trees have evolved for over thousands of years in their natural ecosystem. I just want to pause here for a second and say it's not the flooding, it's not the water itself that stresses the trees. They need water. It's when the soil gets saturated, it's going to displace the air from the little pores in the soil. It's the lack of oxygen in the root system that really stresses the trees. And it's probably the smaller roots, the fine roots, that are most sensitive to that lack of oxygen. So some previous studies that were done before this AGFC project was started showed us that the timing of flood is really important. we found that fall flooding reduces fine root mass due to root mortality. From this, we see reduced nutrient uptake, and we see a big decrease in survival over winter. Flooding is not good. If we flood just during the winter, it's not too bad. We don't see any seedling mortality. We don't see an effect on biomass. But if that flood extends then beyond bud break into the spring, we do start to see some consequences. In this case, we see reduced seedling biomass. And so the introduction going in here is that the timing of flood is important. Winter flooding, it's not too bad for the seedlings. Fall flooding is pretty harsh. It damages roots and it can kill seedlings. And so we're going in with the assumption, the understanding that's commonly held that during winter when the trees are dormant, the roots are less active, they're going to be less vulnerable to flooding. And so we went in with kind of this question of as Luke mentioned, when are the roots dormant? Well, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because they're not actually dormant. That's not how it works around here. But we did expect that even if they don't go dormant, we're going to see reduced activity just because there'll be colder temperatures, less sunlight. And so what we really focused our research on is when does that activity of roots start to decline for the winter? And more importantly, what are the causes driving that? Because if we understand the causes, we may have some cues from the environment, something that's easily observable that we can use to say, all right, now the root activity is lower, maybe it's safe to flood. Which brings up the third question, is it actually safe to flood when these roots are at their lower activity? This is an assumption, but as a scientist, I don't like assumptions. Nobody likes to assume, right? So these are the questions that we addressed. And at this point, we've done several very large greenhouse studies looking at thousands of seedlings, multiple field studies. I'm not going to dive deep into all the details of those. I think we'd be here for even more than an hour and a half. But I'm going to give some lessons that we've learned from that, kind of the executive summary. So first of all, I already mentioned roots don't appear to go, of red oaks in our region, don't appear to go dormant. In fact, for the seedlings, they may hold on to their leaves well into winter, in some cases throughout the winter, as you see here. And these leaves are capable of doing photosynthesis. I saw it, so I had to measure it. It's a little bit lower during the winter, but they're still there, they're still active. Okay, so we're not expecting and we're not looking for when do roots go inactive. We're just looking for when does that activity decrease. And it does, in fact, decrease. We're looking at root growth rates over time. The first number along the bottom axis, those are dates. That first number is the month. So we're looking from November to February. Root growth rates decrease during winter, especially as soil temperature decreases. Root respiration also decreases during the winter, especially with cooler soil temperatures. Just to give you some frame of reference, you might be thinking, I thought plants did photosynthesis. Leaves do photosynthesis, but roots are underground where there's no sunlight. And they're doing respiration just like we do. They're burning up sugars that were produced by the leaves and move down to the roots. So this has given us an overview of all of their metabolic activity, their energy expenditures. So that slows down. And note on that top line, in that treatment, we kept the soil temperature the same all the way through the winter. But we still see some decline in root respiration. Okay, so already from this, we can see soil temperature is important, but also there's some other factor that's influencing root respiration. So from here, we go to the field. And in the field, there's all kinds of noise that we can't control, the sort of thing that But as a scientist, sometimes I don't like. I want to have control. But sometimes we can use all of that variability to look at all of the factors out there that could be influencing something, in this case, root activity, and see what really, in the field, what's correlating with root activity. And this was done with willow oak seedlings that we collected at Cutoff Creek WMA. So this is on site, not in the GTR, but just next to it. So this is one example of what we found. We have several of these studies. Typically, what we see is the best predictors of root respiration are some combination of soil temperature, air temperature, sometimes soil moisture, and light and photosynthesis. In this case, the soil temperature and actually the air temperature were the most significant factor. Okay, so what's going on? Higher temperatures allow higher respiration rates, faster growth. Unlike us, plants don't maintain a body temperature, so they just kind of are influenced by their environment. Soil moisture, the effects there seem to be more as the soil gets saturated, that can reduce activity. And then light and photosynthesis. As I mentioned, roots are dependent on carbohydrates produced by leaves. So if there's light available, if there are leaves that are still functional, that's going to provide carbohydrates for the roots to continue their activity. And in fact, that's probably the impact of air temperatures. It's influencing what the leaves are doing. Okay, so from this first part, here's the take-home message. Root activity does, in fact, decrease during the winter, and the factors causing that decrease are decreased soil temperature, decreased air temperature, sometimes increased soil moisture, and photosynthesis, which is dependent on light, air temperature, and the progression of leaf senescence for that particular seedling. So these give us some cues that we could look at. These are all, well, maybe the exception of photosynthesis, easily observable cues. But before we just go out into the field and come up with a new flood management scheme, let's look a little bit further. When the roots are less active, are they actually more tolerant of flooding? The short answer is that winter flooding, when the roots are less active, does cause some stress, but the consequences are fairly minimal. Okay, so let's expand on that. What does that mean? We saw no seedling mortality for willow oak seedlings, not all oak seedlings, and these were flooded for several months. It was soil flooding because we wanted to focus on the roots. But signs of stress, you can see some here. These white puffy things, those are hypertrophied lenticels. It's a porous tissue. It allows a little bit of enhanced gas exchange, probably some oxygen getting into the stem, some toxic byproduct gaseous stuff escaping from the stem. So we saw those in the flooded seedlings. We also saw these adventitious roots, these new roots that kind of grow up at the surface of the soil, in some cases up above the soil, presumably growing towards the oxygen at the surface of the water. And so those are signs of stress. And those signs of stress were greatest when the soil was warm at 15 degrees C, and that's about 60 degrees Fahrenheit. At cold temperatures, 5 degrees C, the stress was actually pretty low, pretty minimal. So around here in our region and lower Mississippi Alluvial Valley, we've had sensors out in the soil for a while now. What's probably the most realistic is right in between that 10 degrees C. And soil temperatures are much more stable than air temperatures. So there's some fluctuation around that, but that's a pretty good number to go by. So the stress that these seedlings would see out in the real world when they're flooded is kind of intermediate. But it is moderated quite a bit compared to that warm soil, that 15 degrees C. Okay, so what else do we see? We're looking at root mass, and that upward slope is an indication of growth. The colder temperature, the line down at the bottom, has the slower growth. This blue box is indicating the time when we were flooding the seedlings. And what we saw is that root growth stopped when the seedlings were flooded. But then when the flood stopped, root growth resumed. So we don't think this is the same kind of stress that the roots are seeing in the fall where there's root mortality. It's not damage, it's just growth inhibition. So you flip the switch off, you take away the flood, switch gets flipped back on, and they just start growing again. If we follow those out to the first flush of new leaves in the spring, what we saw was that flood had no impact on the whole seedling mass. So that's pretty promising. But this does not tell the whole story. There were effects of flooding on the allocation of that mass between the shoot and the root. So first focus on the orange bars, and notice this is the ratio of roots to stems. So it gives us a sense of the allocation to roots. As we move from warm temperature to cooler temperatures during winter, we see lower and lower allocation to roots. So now, within a temperature, if you compare the orange and blue bars, that's the flood effect. So flood effect on this allocation ratio is pretty big at a warm soil temperature, and it gets weaker and weaker as we move to cold temperatures. I'll talk about that more in a second. The last few slides have been all focused on willow oak. Not all oak. We saw some very similar things, but we also did some things that were a little bit different. Going into this study, by this time we knew 5 degrees C soil temperature was not really all that relevant around here. So we eliminated that, which opened up some resources to look at some different flood timing. So on the left we have, so not all oak produce these hypertrophied lenticels, the puffy white tissues, just like the willow oaks. We didn't happen to see adventitious roots on these seedlings in this study. They can produce them, just in this case they didn't. And so the graph I'm showing is how many seedlings had those hypertrophied lenticels. So if we start flooding seedlings in November and keep the temperature warm, a lot of seedlings were stressed. If we start flooding in November, this is the blue bar under November, and decrease the soil temperature over the next 30 days down to 10 degrees C, those seedlings were still pretty stressed. If we wait until December, this is mid-November, mid-December, if the soil temperature is warm and we wait till December, there's a little bit of an improvement. And if we wait until December and have the temperature of the soil ramp down already to 10 degrees C, that eliminates a lot of this stress. So that's kind of a new addition from this study. Some of the other things we saw are kind of confirming. We saw flood stopped root growth of not all oak seedlings, just like it did for willow oak. The timing depended on when the flood was occurring. If the soil temperature was warmer when the flood was removed, those roots actually were able to grow faster in this case. So that was something that was interesting. And then we grow those seedlings out to their first flush of new leaves in the spring, and we see, in this case, flood did impact overall seedling biomass. We saw reduced root mass. We also saw reduced leaf production. So don't know if that's a species difference, there was something different about the weather that year. Because this was done in a greenhouse, but it was a greenhouse where windows were open and fans were blowing the whole time. And we also saw this reduction in allocation to roots. So does this matter? Probably not immediately. It's not like that shift in plant morphology is going to result in some immediate death. It could perhaps weaken the response if there's some future stress. Say deer browsing, the whole stem gets clipped. Or if there's an extreme drought, you don't have as much root system there. It's going to be a weaker response to that. But it's not necessarily an immediate, problem. Okay, so that's all seedlings. Let's expand our observations now to mature trees. I started with seedlings, by the way, because mature trees are really hard to study. So we took soil cores from around willow oak trees, mature willow oak trees, pulled out the roots, washed them off, and measured respiration of those roots. So in the summer, root respiration is very high. In the winter, it's very low. And in the fall and spring, it's intermediate. And that's not too surprising. This is work that the statistical analysis, regression analysis is still in progress, but I can point out a few interesting things by just showing you the patterns. So top graph is showing what's happening with root respiration over time throughout the course of a year. And then the bottom graphs are going to show some environmental variable. So where do we see some things lining up? So first thing, there was this early frost in late October, and that lines up really nicely with this drop in root respiration, which I was really excited about when my grad student came in and said, hey, I found this thing. But notice that the root respiration jumps right back up after that happens. So that's a transient effect, that frost, that air temperature. When we get to this low point in soil temperature, that lines up with kind of a low point, not the lowest point, but a drop in root respiration as well. And that blue box that pink line is in is my estimation of this is the area, this is the time when we had the lowest root respiration rates during the winter. So what's associated with that? So I kept the top graph the same, the bottom two graphs are different. So soil moisture, where we get this flat line across the top, that's probably where the soil saturated. It might have been just a little bit floody at that time. It doesn't quite line up with that period of low root respiration, so it's probably not the driver. It may have some influence. And then on the bottom, we've got, it says crown density and green canopy. This is our way of looking at leaf senescence. And so during the period of leaf senescence and leaf fall between these two green lines, we do see kind of a downward trend in root respiration during that period. And then at the end, when the leaf senescence is complete, leaf fall is complete, it's about a week or so later that we see that lowest root respiration. Now, if we look out towards spring, that green line that I just added is the end point of regreening. So we've got leaves again, and right after that we have an increase in root respiration rates again. So from 1 year of data, it looks like soil temperature probably has some role. Leaf fall seems to be, or leaf off period seems to be a good indicator, but it's also 1 year of data. Weather changes from year to year. Leaf fall changes from year to year. This is something that we want to follow up, so we're not picking something that just happened to fall on the right time frame that year. So some conclusions that we can draw. Timing of flooding is important. Winter flood is not too bad. Fall flood seems to be a pretty big problem. But still, there's some effect of winter flood. It does stop root growth. It does reduce that root-stem ratio, the allocation to the roots, which it could, trying to pick the right word here, it could be not really a threat, but could increase the threat of future issues. We did not see root dormancy, but we did see reduced root activity during the winter. And so what we want to get from all of this is what's causing it, what's driving that reduced activity during the winter where we see flood is more tolerable. And seedlings, it looked like soil temperature and air temperature were at the top of the list. Those are really important. Soil moisture may have some influence. Photosynthesis is clearly important as well. For mature trees, it looked like the respiration was, it's influenced by air temperature, at least transiently, but it looked like probably soil temperature and leaf fall are the big cues there. But again, we want to follow up to be really confident in that. Okay, so now we have some ideas that we could potentially use to develop adaptive flood management. But we don't want to just go out and start doing this across, thousands of acres, making decisions. We want to first go out and test this. That's what we're working on now. We have this field site at Rape Plantation near Bayamito, and we have 12 half-acre impoundments here that can each be flooded individually. So we can control the timing. We can test some different flood regimes. We've got seedlings growing there, 2 different light levels, the light levels that are probably the most relevant to a game and fish GTR. Those black boxes, that's shade cloth. Let's see, those are about 36 feet by 84 feet long. So shade cloth held up by wooden structures. It's approximating the light level that we would see on average under a bottomland hardwood forest that's been thinned for wildlife. And then we have some full sun, because that's going to be important in some situations as well. So that's at the top of the list of the remaining needs where we need to go. We can really test an adaptive management approach to see if we're improving seedling health. Is this worth doing? In those greenhouse studies, I mentioned that we were looking at soil flooding because we wanted to focus on the impacts on the roots, what's happening with the root physiology. But in a green tree reservoir, it's not soil flooding. It's going to be deeper. So we do need to test that as well. And in that field study, that's what we're doing. We're not comparing soil flooding and a deeper flood. It's not set up for that. But we are going to look at that, a more realistic flood level, like a 12-inch, give or take 3 or 4 inches. The mature tree root, I already mentioned a couple times. We want to get at least 2 more years of data on that, so that we make sure we can be confident that we've identified causes that can really be used as cues to know when the root activity is lower. And we're thinking about ways to also verify that flood in the winter is in fact a lower stress on the trees than flooding outside of winter. And we have some ideas on how to do that. It's a big challenge. It's easy to pull a seedling out of a pot and measure what's going on. It's not possible it's not feasible to pull a lot of trees out of the ground and say, well, how big is the root system? And then finally, this is something I brought up the last time I spoke for the commission, and I think what we're going to see is probably some different criteria for protecting mature trees and protecting seedlings. Not sure how different yet, but you can imagine a scenario where there's a forest where the red oaks are starting to age out, or maybe they got too stressed for a number of years and some of them are starting to die off, and you need regeneration, you need seedlings. You may have to go to a little bit less intense flooding for those young seedlings to get them established. We know seedlings are more vulnerable to flood stress than mature trees. We don't really know when that transition occurs. But I know, you don't want to have to back off the flood to begin with. And if you have to do it to get this regeneration, you need to know when can it transition back. So that's something that I think with this field study we have, we can start to get at that question. It might be as simple as, the seedlings or saplings get big enough to get their leaves above water, then they become less stressed. But I think also there's some physiological changes that happen during the tree development that are going to contribute to development of that greater flood tolerance. Okay, so with that, I'm not going to read off all the names, but I do need to thank especially a key collaborator, Emil Gardner, who's been involved both mentally and physically in all of these projects. And also point out that a number of graduate students have come out of this research as well, including one who's now working for Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, one PhD, and another that's about to earn his PhD. I especially want to thank the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission not only for funding this research, but for cooperating and working with me to focus my research on questions that are going to have the most impact in the field. And with that, I will take any questions. And this is ground view of that field study.
So are there any studies done with the sheet water effect versus just standard stagnant flooding water?
For my research, no, but that's an important factor because, like I said, the water itself is not necessarily the stress; it's the lack of oxygen. But there are some. The one that popped into my head was actually not sheet flow, but very old study from the 60s, and they were measuring oxygen of the water every time it would rain. That would bring up the oxygen level again if it was a shallow GTR.
So that's always a question we've had and been told and been taught that the sheet flow effect has minimal impact on the flooding and the root activity because of the oxidation in the water. But the stagnant water, of course, is what tends to cause the most damage, and the longer it stays on.
Yeah,
So,
and there are a number of studies also with seedlings where they're not looking at just flood and no flood, but seedlings growing in hydroponics. So they're in water, but they have oxygenated, aerated water versus water that's either left still or even bubbling nitrogen through it to displace the
so
oxygen.
you're still seeing activity in those roots with that. You're still seeing activity in the roots that have oxidation or nitrogen in the water.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Babs? I'd just like to add, Dr. Babs, just congratulations on fantastic work that you and your team and your grad students have already brought forth. And I know this is ongoing collaboration and study for us, and I couldn't say enough of how much I appreciate the professionalism and the expertise that we're going to have going forward to help make good decisions, scientific backed decisions on how we manage our GTRs. And it's one of those, I'm like a proud papa. I'm rotating off, and this is my last meeting, but this work will go on for decades. I'll be on private ground and public ground, and I mean, anything, if you're a duck hunter, we pride Arkansas for our timber experience, and it is unique, and managing the timber for ducks is probably one of the most, as a forester, one of the most challenging things we do. It really is, because we're subjecting it to a stress situation that one, we're providing habitat for the waterfowl, but we've got to also protect those mature trees, and also through this work that you're doing is helping to design a management plan that will best promote this regeneration. And if we don't bring on the next forest, we're all in trouble. So again, great work, great report. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Turkeys and trees.
I mean, turkeys and trees, turkeys and trees. Well, a great way to get us into this meeting. Next up, Director Sean Rock is going to give us a direct report.
Thank you, Chairman. Amazing work. Obviously, GTRs it's the long game, isn't it? And the research that you're providing as a foundation, Dr. Babst, is going to be meaningful to future generations. And I think this whole agency appreciates that. And I feel like we're going about it the right way, establishing a solid foundation so that we can look to the future. And hopefully generations from now can enjoy the same GTR experiences that most of us in this room have experienced. So thank you. So good morning. First, I'd like to just thank the commissioners for your engaging support on a daily basis since our last meeting. And to the staff that are here and watching online as well, thank you for your commitment and for your efforts since our last meeting. And not just since our last meeting, but also every day. No 2 minutes are the same on any day at Two Natural Resources or throughout our regional offices. And that's invigorating to a new guy like me. Very exciting. And to our friends in the media, I'd like to thank you for your assistance as you help in keeping the AGFC forward-facing to the public. It's critical and important. Thank you. And to those folks who are watching online now or later, I'd like to just thank you for your support of the agency and, more importantly, of the natural state. So it's been 17 and a half years since the commission last gathered in Camden. And I want to give you just a little glimpse of some of the initiatives that the commission was undergoing at those times. And when you hear some of these, you're going to think, oh my gosh. And now look at it today. So the commission was deliberating land acquisitions contingent to Scatter Creek, Rex Hancock, Black Swamp, and Dagmar, WMAs, in 2007. The commission had just completed the state, its inaugural alligator hunt. And we were deliberating impacts and opportunities for harvesters to sell alligator parts internally within the state of Arkansas. Of course, we were deliberating the 2008 upcoming turkey season, which I think is going to become an annual occurrence, this organization, and the associated bag limits as well. And we were securing additional funding for the Morrow Big Pine Natural Area, just a few miles from here, which is ongoing today, a large area. Just a glimpse of history. And so here today, in 2025, of course, a big reason for what they were here today is to bid a very fond and heartfelt farewell to our outgoing chairman, J.D. Neely. J.D., thank you for your service, your leadership, and your dedication to this organization and your friendship to all in this room. Thank you. You know, although it's been an honor to work with you, and I hope that you don't stray far from your friends here, except for during turkey season, when, of course, anybody in this room will be glad to come see you. So, as is typical with AGFC, a lot's happened since our last gathering in May. Roger, thanks to you and your organization, the Nature Conservancy recently completed the purchase of 1,900 acres, more than 1,900 acres, in the Archery Fork area of the Red River, just northwest of Clinton. The good news here is that this acquisition is going to protect the yellow-cheeked darter, which I think we all know what that is. The speckled pocketbook, which I had to look up because I think I'd only seen those in shopping malls, but it's actually a mussel, I believe, and the northern long-eared bat, as well as 18 other species of concern. And probably even better news is that in time, the Nature Conservancy will deed over in excess of 1,000 acres to the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission to be incorporated into our wildlife management area system. So thank you, Roger. Just a couple of weeks ago, Governor Sanders announced our exciting news about our outdoor classroom education program. And this program is led by our chief, Mary Beth Hatch. This action is going to put Arkansas at the forefront of outdoor education, not just in the South, but nationally. We should all be very proud of the outdoor educational extension research and what's going to be happening in the future for the great state of Arkansas. You know, our law enforcement group has also been actively supporting our enforcement efforts through the K-9 efforts, as well as other endeavors, and I'll talk about those in a minute. But our K-9 efforts in the 2024-2025 hunting season responded to 291 needs for use of our K-9 hunting seasons. And I think I have a pic here. I just wanted to show this photo. Just recently, one of our K-9s named June, she's right there, next to Officer Mills. They were called in to assist in recovering a weapon suspected to have been used in a homicide. And folks, whereas other agencies had spent hours trying to locate this weapon, June was brought in under Corporal Mills' leadership and found that weapon in less than 1 minute. That's the power of a nose, right? Unbelievable. I look forward to even greater things and utilization of this program. Thank you to our K-9 efforts. In addition to, our enforcement division has been very busy with recreational boat season that opened just a month or so ago. Colonel Brad Young refers to this time of year as deer season on the lakes and waterways. So friends, our folks are busy out there. Our wardens have successfully removed numerous impaired boating folks from the water, which has no doubt saved countless numbers of lives. Our IT division has undergone a comprehensive update to our IT systems to enhance both security, stability, as well as support of all users, both in Little Rock and throughout the state. The licensing experience to users. Doesn't mean we still get calls. We'll always get calls. But we're trying to make that experience more user-friendly as we move forward. And probably most importantly is our IT division constantly has to evolve as technology grows and user experience demands increase. Our recreational shooting division has also experienced great growth. We just finished up our state championships the end of May. And Magnet Cove High School is a shining star in the state of Arkansas. You know, they went to the Nationals, and they finished third in 3D targets. This is archery. And sixth in bullseye target on a national basis. Very proud of them as well. Our youth shooting sports. After a near-perfect score, Ball Dob finished first. Ball Dob High School finished first in the senior division. And in all, and this is very impressive if any of you have shot sporting clays or skeet in the past, in all, we had 6 shooters from the natural state across a 4-week regional tournament shoot perfect 50 out of 50 throughout that entire duration. Friends, that's hard for the best shooters to do. And very proud of those young people who did that. Congratulations. You know, we've had a lot of rain in Arkansas in the past couple of months, haven't we? We're still getting it, and I noticed on the weather this morning that between Little Rock and Memphis, more was coming. And they're even forecasting for more in the Little Rock area this afternoon. In fact, I think, Ben, you told me that Little Rock today is 30%, 50% higher than normal this time of year. I think normally we've had 24, and now we're at 36 inches of rainfall so far this year. And we're not even finished with June yet. Unbelievable. This act of Mother Nature has created a lot of challenges, both to work on the ground on our projects. We can't get into them. But it's also created some infrastructure failure. We're all familiar with the dam failure at Grampus Lake Dam. Well, in addition, the Spring River has experienced some really strong flows in the last month, which unfortunately resulted in a fatality just this last week, primarily due to high flow. And speaking of rain, a recent fundraiser put on by the Game and Fish Foundation. Where'd Deke go? I was going to point it. There he is back there in the back. And that didn't damage and hamper and change the enthusiasm and support of those who attended. I do think they got to play 6 or 7 holes. And I think they still had a good time. Thank you for those who attended. You know, just a comment about our foundation. Deke and his team are excellent partners. They're committed. And I'm honored to work with them. And I sincerely appreciate what Deke calls Little Switzerland. I call it the embassy as you walk out the doors of the AGFC offices. Because when you walk through those doors, it's a haven. Deke, I appreciate that. Thank you for your support and for embodying the mission of the commission. I appreciate that. Friends, coming up next week in Stuttgart, next Friday, a week from tomorrow, Stuttgart's going to be the host of the first day of sale of Federal Migratory Bird Stamp. The event will be held at Max Prairie Wings on Friday, June 27 at 10 a.m. And we're pleased to be hosting this event in Stuttgart. We're going to welcome friends from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Bass Pro, Ducks Unlimited, and the U.S. Postal Service. It's a very special event, and I encourage all of you to come if you can, next Friday, June 27. And while on the subject of upcoming events, you don't want to miss our upcoming July Commission meeting. It's going to be held in Little Rock, but on the day before, on July 16, we're going to visit the newly remodeled Joe Hogan Fish Hatchery, and I think we're going to experience a ribbon cutting at that location, just outside Lonoke. You know, this hatchery is our oldest. It was built in 1928, been retrofitted, remodeled, and we put back into production. Well, while there, we're going to treat all attendees to some very exciting and big announcements from the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. The next day, the meeting will be held in Little Rock at the corporate office at 2 Natural Resources Drive. So please try to join us on the 16th and come to our meeting on the 17th as well. So in closing, JD, it's been an honor to work with you. Governor Sanders will soon announce a new commissioner coming up in early July, we hope. And Vice Chairman Anne-Marie Duramus will take over the gavel and be the next chair of the commission. On behalf of all the staff, we're looking forward to meeting the new commissioner, and we're looking forward to your leadership, Chairman Duramus, as we move forward. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Excellent report, and again, like a proud papa, I think I will be back for that Joe Hogan ribbon cutting. That is something, Bobby, even you remember a lot of Joe Hogan reports through those years. That project has been in the making for many years. We're proud to have that hatchery back online at warp speed and putting out little fish into our streams and lakes and rivers. We're really proud of that project and some other announcements that we'll get to hear next month. So, yeah, I got to come back for that. Well, moving on into committee reports at this time. Our committee chairs will deliver their reports for the June 18th committee meetings. First, Commissioner Finley, Chair of Regulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Regulation Committee had a spirited day yesterday, so much so that we had to break it into two halves. Starting with our discussion items, Elizabeth Chambers presented on various aquatic habitat projects for the South Arkansas lakes and the important work being done on vegetation management. And then Aaron Norton presented on the goals of the stream habitat program and updates for completed and ongoing stream bank stabilization projects in the South Arkansas area. We had a couple of action items. We had a number of reg issues that we brought into one vote. Victor Shinzo and Luke Naylor both presented miscellaneous regulations for committee approval. The resident accommodation guide license, which combines the privilege of both hunting and fish guiding into one product. The next was the largemouth bass tournament exemptions for lakes Barnett, Brewer, and Poinsett. The new turkey season and dates and zones were announced again in their final reading, as well as the penalty for the increase for inappropriate behavior on WMAs and reckless boat operations. The committee gave unanimous approval to each of those, and the last thing was Luke Naylor presented an action item for the granting of one youth elk permit, either sex, for the 2025 October elk season to the Game and Fish Foundation for conservation, education, fundraising purposes. The permit is to be auctioned at the 2025 AGFF Hall of Fame banquet, and the committee gave unanimous due pass on that as well. No new business, no old business, and we were adjourned.
All right. Well, thank you, Commissioner Finley. Next, we have Commissioner Evans White, Chair of Research.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Research Review Committee met. We had no discussion items. We had an action item. Corey Gray presented an action item for the 2026-2031 CWD Management and Response Plan. This will serve to support and guide the state's white-tailed deer management program. The committee gave the item a unanimous due pass. We had no new business and no old business, and we adjourned.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner White. Next, Commissioner Doremus, Chair of Budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. The Budget Committee met yesterday. We had one discussion item. Our CFO, Ms. Emily Shoemate, presented an update on the financial status of the agency. We had several action items. Actually, we batched them all into one at the end to approve, but Emily Shoemate presented our fiscal year 2026 budget, which included the maintenance and operations budget, marine fuel tax budget, Black River budget, gas lease budget, wetland habitat restoration budget, and continuation budget, which all received a unanimous due pass. There was no new business, no old business, and we were adjourned.
Okay. Thank you. And the next, Commissioner Jones, Chair of Personnel and Governance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had one discussion item. John Marks presented an update to the agency's legal matters. We had two action items. The first one was John Marks presented an action item to update the agency's delegated approval authority for staff at various levels following the hiring of Director Doug Schoenrock. The committee gave this item a unanimous due pass. Second one was Emily Shoemate presented an action item on behalf of the Human Resources for the merit pay increases of the staff based on their 2025 performance evaluations. The committee also gave this a unanimous due pass. We had no new business, no old business, and we were adjourned.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Next, Commissioner Tappan, Chair of Property Management. Please give us your report.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The Property Management Committee convened. We had two discussion items. Clayton Whitaker presented on open pine restoration efforts in the Gulf Coastal Plain of Arkansas and Louisiana using RCPP funds to help landowners achieve habitat management goals for specific species of greatest conservation needs. Tommy Laird provided an update on the progress made at Jim Hinkle Spring River Hatchery following the early April flooding. I might add that due to the judiciousness of fishery staff, we removed $100,000 of additional expense needed. So my congratulations to how well they're managing that recovery effort. We did have two action items. Emily Shoemate presented an action item to remove assets from agency inventories that were stolen from the work center at Ed Gordon Point. Remove WMA after it was broken into through a window. The committee gave unanimous due pass to that. Director Doug Schoenrock presented an action item to award outgoing Chairman Neely a firearm. And that item received unanimous do pass. There was no new business and no old business, and we were adjourned.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Tappan. And lastly, as Chair of Intergovernmental Relations, I'll give this last report. We had one discussion item. Jen Sheehan presented us the efforts of the agency and partners to work with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to complete the Washita River watershed study. Just as a side note, with our early guest that we had to welcome everyone, you kind of got a good sense of the importance of this Washita River in its early days, to our early pioneers and settlers, and even today. It continues to be a critical watershed river to Arkansas and on down through its basin in Louisiana. And Jen, we continue to look forward to hopeful completion of that study at some point. Thank you for that report. No action items, no new business, no old business, and we were adjourned. Okay. Next, Commissioners, we'll now cover the business items of this morning's meeting. First up, miscellaneous regulations. Luke Naylor, you have the floor.
Good morning again. I think Commissioner Finley provided a pretty good update in his committee report about these items. So yeah, Vic and I addressed 5 items with tournament exemptions all the way down to reckless and negligent reckless operation of boats, disorderly conduct, behavior, and of course the turkey seasons, as the director mentioned in his report. So all those were batched together in 1-minute order for your consideration.
All right. This item does require approval from Regulations Committee. Commissioner Finley, was this approved in your committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it was.
Okay. I have a motion to approve the request. No second necessary. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Well, this motion is approved. Thank you, Luke. And again, next item, the elk permit for the Arkansas Game and Fish Foundation.
Yep. So similar story there, as Commissioner Finley mentioned. So this is a restoring our donation of a youth. There was a question yesterday. It is an either sex. I don't think I covered that yesterday. It's an either sex tag during October to be auctioned off by the Game and Fish Foundation for fundraising for conservation efforts.
Okay, thank you, Luke. This item does require approval from Regulations Committee. Commissioner Finley, was this approved by your committee?
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, this motion is approved as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up, our CWD Management and Response Plan. Mr. Corey Gray, you have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director. I'm seeking approval this morning for a minute order for our 2026 through 2021 CWD Management Plan. As we discussed yesterday, this plan has went through an extensive external, internal, professional peer review process, public review process. All those comments were brought back, and our staff was able to tinker with the plan to get it to where it is right now that I present to you this morning.
Well, again, Corey, as we mentioned yesterday, we thank you and your team. Dr. Ballard back there in the back certainly had a critical part in this plan that we're approving here. As you said yesterday, CWD 4.0, I believe. That's
right.
Our fourth, and we'll continuing on as we manage this deer herd. We thank you for all of the hard work to all the staff that brought this before us, and a good plan. All right, this item does require approval from Research Committee. Commissioner Evans White, was this approved by your committee?
It was, and
Okay, well, thank you for that. Have a motion to approve this request. Spit that one out. No second is necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, this motion is approved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up, Chief Financial Officer Emily Shoemate has items 5D through I, all of which are in relation to our FY26 budget. We're going to hear all these together and just batch this up as one vote.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all so much. This morning I have for your consideration these 6-minute orders that total roughly $144.6 million for AGFC's upcoming fiscal year budget that will begin on July 1. This is comprised of the operating appropriation, maintenance and operating appropriation, marine fuel tax, Black River budget, gas lease budget, which is where we will be funding the cleanup at Spring River. This is a stopgap $300,000 as we get the additional details on what is needed, and we will tinker with that plan and bring it to y'all for final approval. And then our new appropriation, the wetland habitat restoration budget, and a continuation of 4 capital improvements or equipment to continue those purchases that will not be here by July 30 into the new fiscal year.
Okay, thank you, Emily, for that, and again to you and your staff for all the hard work. We're here to the final to the 1-inch line of approving this budget, but there's thousands of hours that you and your staff put in to bring us all the reports. Even last month, the great work we had with that special day, going through all this. So we're so proud of our next year's budget. All right. This requires approval from the Budget Committee, and I'm going to say this for the last time. Vice Chair Doremus, was this approved in committee?
It was approved in the Budget Committee. Okay. Mr. Chairman.
About for the last time. I have a motion to approve this request. No second is necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion is approved. All right. Next, Emily, you have the next item up, inventory removal for stolen assets.
Yes, sir. This morning I have for y'all's consideration a minute order that would allow us to remove approximately $5,478 worth of inventory items that were stolen from Ed Gordon in a recent break-in.
Okay. Again, this requires approval from Property Management. Commissioner Tappan, was this approved by your committee?
Chairman, yes, sir. That was approved unanimously.
Okay. Well, I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Well, this motion is approved as well. Next, Emily, our merit pay increase.
Yes, sir. All right. My last one for today, I promise. The minute order, I have a minute order for your consideration today that will allow Arkansas Game and Fish Commission to pay a salary increase based on performance ratings given to staff in the 2025 performance review. These increases will be effect for salary for FY26, either added to employee staff or as lump sum payments.
All right. Thank you for that, Emily. This does require approval from Personnel and Governance Committee. Commissioner Jones, was this approved by your committee?
It received a unanimous 2 pass.
All right. Thank you, sir. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Well, this motion is approved. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you so much.
All right. Next, we have inventory removal award of firearm to Chairman Neely, Doug Schonrock.
Pretty simple. We're just giving a gun to JD in respect for his service, and would like to take that out of inventory and reward him with that weapon.
All right. This item requires approval from Property Management Committee. Commissioner Tappan, was this approved by your committee?
Mr. Chairman, this item was enthusiastically approved.
All right. Well, I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. And please let the record show I have recused myself from this vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. It passed. It's close. All right. Well, thank you all. Next up, delegated authority changes. Our attorney, John Marks, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, here we are, and I don't know how I got the pleasure of being the last staff member to present the item to you today. I think Landon may have tinkered with the agenda a little bit there, but I do appreciate it. I very much appreciate having us down here to Camden. It's been a wonderful experience. I'm from El Dorado, so this is close to home for me as well. We just had a great time here and getting to meet some of your family and see your family and see all the people that showed up last night to support you, former commissioners and others, and it was just great. I appreciate it.
Well, John Mark, I just got to add, I feel bad that I didn't smuggle up some Spud Nut Donuts up here.
I know.
Get you this close.
Last night, I knew Vic was.
I lapsed.
I know, and I had the same thought. I knew Vic was staying in El Dorado, and I almost called him and said, "Hey, man, bring some Spud Nuts up," because Director Schoenrock probably hasn't had the pleasure of an El Dorado Spud Nut, but they're the best thing you can put in your mouth. You got to get them hot and fresh in the morning. It's the only place in Arkansas you can get them, I think, is in there in El Dorado. But
I'm
but
about to head there right now.
It's been fun. I'm here seeking approval of a minute order to formally delegate the day-to-day authority of the commission to Director Schoenrock, and also to set out his downstream delegation authority to his staff. As I mentioned, we do this with every director. I highlighted a few of the changes compared to what we had done for the previous director. Basically, those are some updated purchasing authority approval levels and some updated authority for the chief of staff in terms of making personnel-related decisions and being able to sign some agreements to take that off of the director. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to entertain them. Otherwise, I'm asking for approval. This did receive a due pass from the committee.
Okay. Well, thank you, John Mark. This requires approval from our Personnel and Governance Committee. Commissioner Jones, was this approved by your committee?
And Chairman, it received a unanimous due pass.
Okay. Well, I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, this motion is approved. Thank you, John Mark.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to switch things up a little bit. We normally do our remarks amongst the commissioners at the end of everything, and we're going to actually do that now before we do our elections and handing of the gavel. So we're just going to switch it up a little bit. And I'm going to switch it up some more.
Oh. Are you going to dance and sing?
I do have a song.
Wait, really?
I really do.
Really? And he can sing.
Well,
I don't know if you all do this, but JD sings in his church choir and gets up in front of the whole church and sings on his own. So I think he's serious.
This is one I couldn't help but throw in for y'all, and it just revolved around. And I've told Luke Naylor this many. I've told Luke Naylor this 1,000 times, that in my 7 years on the commission, nothing brings up more heartfelt consternation than duck season and ducks. I mean, we even heard it today, GTR, man, you go on and on and on. It's the duck world that wraps a lot of our time and efforts. And it's the one species that doesn't live here.
It's a crazy thing.
It's a crazy thing. So while I'm sitting there this morning drinking my coffee, it just hit on me. Sunrise, sunset. Sunrise, sunset. So here's my rendition. Is this my new decoy I've carried? Is this my little duck dog at play? I don't know where the ducks are, but I watch day after day. Sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset. Swiftly fly the years, one duck season following another, laden with lots of consternation. some happiness and tears. So, there's duck season, y'all. You commissioners, get ready.
Have you got a manager?
Hey, can you spell consternation?
I can't even spell it.
I can't.
That
I
is
didn't
Casey
know that was a
Kasem's
word.
long distance dedication.
Yeah. So I get to start off because we've said enough about me. Now I get to brag on Anne Marie. So y'all heard me brag on my wife last night as my right hand, the one who, you know, if there's a good man, there's a much better wife. Well, if there's ever been a good chairman, there's a much better vice chairman, woman. And I say woman because Anne Marie, even today, y'all, she straightened me out 3 times and got me out of trouble. And she's been on every decision, everything I've done this year. I've called you, I've leaned on you, you've kept me right. They said I threw strikes, but that's only because you helped me steer back into the middle. I can't thank you enough for your support. You've made this year special for me, and you will guide this next year beautifully. Joe DeRamus, you've got a wonderful wife. She's the mother of your child. She does that with one baby under one arm, leading this commission with the other, and about to deliver another one.
You better believe it.
And we couldn't be more proud of you. And so I thank you for making this year special for me. Now you're going to speak last. So before we start back around this way, I would like to ask Commissioner Bobby Martin to be part of this group, to say some words to this group as we close out this year. Now? Right now. I wasn't planning on that one. I'll get up here so I'm not-
Would you start off with a song, please?
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Not that rusty. I love it. Wow. I have to gather my thoughts. Brandon, poked fun at me last night because he said, well, I'm kind of like Bobby Martin. When I speak, I cry. And I do joke about that. Everybody knows, they've heard before. I cry at weddings, funerals, and supermarket openings. I didn't think JD would say anything to make me cry, but that song came incredibly close. Wow. Let me kind of gather my thoughts. Being a former commissioner, I guess, ceremonially, how do you say that? Ceremonially. That didn't sound right either. I welcome you, I guess, to the former commissioner ranks as well, being one sitting here getting a chance to speak. And it is unique as a former commissioner, and we do say it. And I think we really do mean it. Once a commissioner, always a commissioner. Although I would tell you, now being removed far enough away that every year your perch gets a little farther and farther away, but your eye and your mind does not, get off of this commission. I sat there a minute ago just reflecting on my thoughts, so I'm just throwing it all out. Kind of scanning that table because I served with JD, I guess 5 of your 7 years. There's still 4 sitting commissioners that I've served alongside and watched the new ones come in, seen the directorate change and so forth. And as I was doing that really honestly thinking about JD, why this popped in my head, I don't know. And I don't know if you'll appreciate it or not, but I'm going to let it go. Just a reflection came back into my mind, and I know I'm on dangerous ground with biologists here. But there's a metaphor or analogy, whatever, but it's about leadership lessons from geese. And there's several attributes. 3 I will mention. It's going to be 90 degrees today. We're not going to look up and see a formation of geese flying, but we all know what that looks like, right? They fly in a particular formation. Whether this is accurate or not, I don't know. And if it's not, let's just call it a good story. But supposedly, they fly in position just exactly so that they are drafting off of the one in front of them. And supposedly they are able to fly 75% further that way. And a goose that gets out of that formation or gets out of that alignment immediately feels the turbulence, the resistance, and so forth. And I think you know where I'm going with all that. Why do they honk? Anybody guess? By the way, you can Google this. There really is leadership lessons from geese. It is to encourage the leader, the one in the front, to keep up the pace, to go the distance. They have another interesting leadership characteristic. That is, when the one in the front gets tired, they just simply fall back and another one picks up the pace. Why that came into my mind, I don't know, but I thought about JD. And I know from my own experience, I think the staff can be a little bit gracious with me here, but, you know, the worst thing you can do when you come on as a new commissioner is not listen, but instead maybe judge, more likely than not misjudge, as opposed to get in the formation. When I think about JD, from the very, very beginning, he has been one of those that has contributed, found his place, picked up the current, the momentum, and carried and just, you know, boosted everybody along. I've long believed this. You guys know it. And I was just fortunate enough with a lot of you to just start some of this work that we talked about today. But in my mind, this commission, this agency, Doug, Director Schoenrock, does its best work when it's doing its hardest work. And when it does its hardest work, it's doing its longest work. It takes long. Most of us, and I've had, you know, that position now, JD, you're getting ready to do it. And you reflected a lot on it last night, even this morning, a lot about what you've begun. You won't see finished in that seat, but you will be able to watch from just a little different perch. That is one of the big, big, big rewards. But, you know, the good measure, I think, of any good leader is what you leave behind in others. And my reflection to all the commissioners, again, the work that's been begun, the way in which you fly, you travel, and the duration and where your eyes are set now, I think is in such a great place. That table right there is full of great leaders. And honestly, Doug, if I can call you Doug, you know it well. Your job's easier when you've got that right kind of leadership and governance and support that's supporting the staff. And I'll go a little bit step farther, JD, on you. I know a lot of commissioners. I've served with a lot. Being a staff favorite, not every commissioner can get. And they shouldn't feel bad about it, because I know and learned the standards of being a staff favorite are pretty high. And they come along with being a good listener, someone that will get in, do the dirty work with you, the sweat, the hard work, clear your path away, and always be there having your back. That's what I think about JD, the commissioner, and I'm going to endanger. I didn't survey the staff, but we'll vote and I'll count. But I'm pretty sure JD Neely goes down as a staff favorite. Your contributions and your mark and what you're going to leave behind, are leaving behind in others, has been unmatched, I think, and probably will be for a very, very, very long time. So I'm proud to know you, call you as friend. I love watching you cry last night, whether it was about your dad or the reflections or whatever, but you poured so much of yourself into this role for this state, and again, into others. I just wish you a big congratulations. It's your retirement. I joined in watching the, what shall we call it? The upgrade, the ceremony. No, we can't call it an upgrade. But certainly watch the succession change. Do what?
How about Mother Goose after you talked about the encouragement?
Mother Goose. Whoa, you know, I should have thought that out a lot more before I ever threw that out there. But honestly, JD, I don't have special words, but I do have special emotions, thoughts, respect, admiration, and regard. And I think you're a great model. Have been, and I couldn't be any happier than I am. I told you that, you know, privately, and I mean it. To see your chairmanship year shape up the way that it has, to see the body function underneath your leadership, navigate another director change, which I was alongside you on the first one. Wow. Just wow. One great big year, one great big finish. I love you to death as well, so congratulations.
Well, thank you, Bobby. thank you for those words. That is heartfelt, and to the staff, I can't thank y'all enough for allowing me 7 wonderful years, and I will cherish every moment and every friendship I've made. I've heard it said there's bitter and there's sweet. The bitter is I don't get to see y'all as much, but there's a sweet is I'm not going anywhere. I'm signed back up with Deke already. I'll be back to Little Rock. Y'all will still hear from me, and I will not be a stranger. Well, I'm going to start down. We'll start down on this end, Michelle, and rotate, and then go back down and come back to Anne Marie.
I thought we passed something that Chris had to go last every time.
Or close.
Well, I'll just say, Mr. Chairman and Vice Chairman, that I loved watching you two, and some of the pictures that brought the biggest smiles to my face last night were watching you two in the pictures of you two in the boats. And one was great with Anne Marie and you speeding across the water.
Her hair flying back.
Yeah. Your friendship and leadership is beautiful together, and it's a beautiful moment here to watch JD, you pass the chairmanship to one of your best friends and colleagues,
Thank you.
Anne Marie.
It's going to be special.
And you're both great. Look forward to working with you, Anne Marie, this next year. And I'm going to keep in touch with you, JD and Beth.
Absolutely. BA?
Oh, yeah. I thought we were switching down there. I'm sorry.
Sorry. I just want to thank you for the example that you set, the way that you lead the commission and the way that you live your life. I've learned a lot over the last 2 years from you, and just watching the way that you handle people and the way that you treat people, and it's really special, and I appreciate it. And Anne Marie, as much as I'm looking forward to your chairmanship, it's a bittersweet because it means it's your last year, and it's been a joy to get to know you and your leadership as well, and just the way that you approach life with the confidence and the joy that you have. I'm really excited about this coming year, so thank you both.
Thank you, BA. And you brought up a point about Anne Marie that I think everybody knows. And Anne Marie, you uplift everybody that's ever around you, and it's a quality that does not go unnoticed, and it really makes everybody feel special.
That's kind of you to say. Thank you.
Bill?
All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank the staff, especially for that wonderful trip to White Oak Lake. It was wonderful bringing the barges in, going to the state park, doing all that, shuttling the vehicles around. That was definitely difficult, and that was absolutely amazing. The other thing is, I've not spent much time in Camden, and this is a nice little city. I mean, with the Grand Canyon being here, I mean, this is the 8th wonder of the world here, and all the different things that are available, and the hilliness. I don't know if you've been to JD's house, but there's just below mountains there. I mean, they're pretty hilly, pretty good. But the tradition, too, that I'm seeing with our chairman singing, I'm wondering about you, Anne Marie. I mean, you're so good in so many things. It's going to end with me, I can promise you that, because I can't sing. I'd have cleared the room is what I would have done.
I'll sing when you do your hoot owl call.
He's got to be gone first, okay? I'm not about to hoot in front of him. But, we're so excited about Anne Marie coming on, and you're going to be an amazing chairman. You're a great leader, and we all look up to you greatly, so we're looking forward to that. But, JD, we're going to miss you greatly. We love you to death, and I can promise you one thing. You can vow this, that when I take you and Austin turkey hunting again, I will bring my wife to cook, okay?
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you. Well, Bill, as I've told you numerous times, you're like a new brother to me, and I'm looking forward to getting back to Split and turkey hunting, and we've got I have a lot more time to make a trip or two with you.
There you go.
All right, back down to the far end.
Well, I don't want to. I think everybody here, heard my remarks last night, so I don't want to be too repetitive. But JD, I just want to thank you again for my the mentorship you provided me in my first year on the commission, and the humility that I've got to watch you lead with. And I cannot sum up how much that means to me. But I said it last night, and I will really say it again: is the example that you put forth in this role with the priority of your family has spoken out, and is something that I will set as a guide path for me over the next 6 years and 1 month that I have remaining. And as well as I'm so excited about soon-to-be Chairman Ramis's tenure, and I just echo Michelle watching YouTube. And lastly, thank you so much for bringing us here to Camden. As I shared with you, all my people are from next door and Calhoun and down to Luann, and so being down here, I haven't been down here in quite a while, and this has been a tremendous way to close out your year, and really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you, Chris. I've got to make one introduction at this point. Came in a little bit late, and then I'll come back to it. But Eddie Horton, raise your hand back there. So, Mr. Eddie Horton is one of our. Eddie and I went to Camden High School together. He's a good friend. He's also a famous turkey call maker, and I gave all the commissioners a turkey call made by Eddie Horton. And I went over to Eddie's a couple weeks ago, and he got every one of these boxes put together from wood that he handpicked. Eddie, am I correct that this wood has to be aged out at least 7 to 8 years before you can make the call? Anything prior to that, the moisture content's not right. He fine-tunes these things. He listens to them. He is a turkey whisperer. I mean, he makes me look like just Amateurville. And every box had its own unique call. And so if we were over there, we would tune each one, and that's when I was matching who got which one. And there was one that was the sweetest, softest call, just had the mellowest sound. I said, that's Anne Marie. So that's how I picked your call out.
Well, thank you.
And
it's beautiful.
And there was one that really just had a good, bold, strong sound. That's Bill Jones. So
it's probably the go-away call.
And then there was one, Chris, that it really had just a loud, little bit of a squawk yank to it. That was just, yo. I said, that's Chris Call. So,
and you just couldn't get it to stop calling.
So that's how I picked my calls out. We tuned them up, didn't we, Eddie? And I matched them. But commissioners, y'all do need to meet Eddie after the thing, and he's the one that poured a lot of time in those calls. Chris, I can't say thank you enough for all your support and your wisdom that you bring to this team, and it's been great to watch you this year. And each commissioner adds so much to the flavor and the chemistries of this group and the staff and the way we all work together. It's just been a perfect year and fit. Mr. Tappan?
Well, JD, at least now I know how I got my caller. You probably got the final one that was out of tune and said, give this to Tappan. It doesn't matter. He can't call up a turkey anyway. Eddie, I can't wait to try those out. JD, I'm going to just add a little bit before I get to you. I'm with some of the other commissioners that talked about how nice it was to get around Camden, see everything, as I mentioned last night, the success of a small town. I want to add also, not only the White Oak, the Poison Springs, but our office. Captain Key back there, he and his team, they've been standing the whole time. And Jennifer, what a well operated facility here, and so organized, so well equipped, and a lot of personality from Mounts and Jennifer's office, and each office being so well kept, to all the turkey beards back there in Captain Key's office. Major, and while we're talking about turkey, your officers this year, 28 hunting over bait citations. It's kind of a sad commentary to why enforcement is so needed. But this past year, can you believe that there may be officers that never write a ticket, but these are baiting, but these guys are so active and so vigilant protecting our turkey crop, JD, and I know that means a whole lot to you. It's bittersweet, kind of like this event, but thank you, enforcement, for all you do and for what you're doing here in this region. It was impressive to see. Beth, I know how much work you've put into this entire event, and it shows, and was just so appreciated by all of us. And started with the reception out there at her house the other night. And JD, thank you for having us there at your home. That was special. I'm gonna finish giving out. See what I put together in my word cloud. There's one for all of you and the staff that are here too. Some other things that we didn't call out last night: long range vision, turkey, doing right, resource. These all came from comments from staff and many of you into that word cloud. Reasonable. Faith, I talked about last night. Food, it's in there, JD. You see that? Excellence, involvement, considerate. That's JD, and what many of you all have said. And JD, as I indicated last night, your legacy will last long past your 7 years of service, and we're so blessed to have had you and given us those examples. And Anne Marie, I just can't wait. You know, you've been dear friends of our family, our children, to see the Duranuses, the Hastings around Little Rock, and all you contribute. It's going to be a great year. I look forward so much to working with you.
All right.
The trouble going behind Tappan is he's so dadgum thorough that he covers everything. You know, the one thing about your word is the biggest one is family, which always speaks well of JD, and we're appreciative of that. And it's been a great friendship we get to develop over these years, JD. You do such a good job and leave a legacy and an example that we can all follow. But to echo some of Phil's comments about, you know, the office is just impressive here. Jennifer did a great job, so thoughtful, so caring. It shows why you guys are so well received in your community, and appreciative of that. Beth, I don't know if you know how excited we are, but I hope you're going to pass those dessert recipes on to Joe. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what Joe pulls out this year.
Oh, that's funny.
He's a big baker.
Listen, I could see the chef hat and the apron on. Here we go. After all these children, you have to learn to shoot good pointers right there. But always a great time. Always been a fun time. You know, one thing, and I know if you'll indulge me a minute, JD, normally when you're a freshman, you get on here and you listen the first year. Good people listen. They don't talk much. Caldwell, fortunately, didn't. And I say that with all due respect. I mean, at a time, you know, everyone out here has their strengths, except me. Everybody else has great strengths. I bring all the weakness to the team. But JD's strength of timber management was just at such a critical time, and Chris's, you know, his involvement with the legislature and everything else, and his strengths there, his ability to communicate, doesn't go unnoticed. And I know we kid a lot, have a lot of fun, but you do such a good job of that. And thank goodness that you didn't come on as a normal freshman and just listen for the first year, because we needed you in many of the things that came up this year. And I know I speak for everyone else in the room and at the table when I say thanks for your contributions this year, because they weren't unnoticed.
I just want when you to come back and whatever the gift's going to be, and you'll be gone. But you just need to advise them that y'all need to get me a custom punching bag, since I've become this whole commission's punching bag.
I can't wait to see your word chart.
You probably can't read it in public.
There'll be two. But anyway, aside, JD, what a great time. Thanks. It's always fun to come back to Camden and see old friends last night. Had a great time. It didn't end the way we wanted it to, but with the ball game. But still, it was the sweetness was just rekindling old friends. We're in the at the brewery last night, and this kid walks up to us from Mountain Home, Arkansas, who's down here doing an internship. Which is always great, and just a kid who grew up in our house. So you never know where you're going to see your friends. I mean, naturally, and I do this all over the state. It's kind of funny. I always make sure I take a picture with a kid and send it to their mama, because it's always important to the mamas. And you give them a big hug. So I let them give them a big hug. But always good stuff in Camden, and so much what they do for our country, and just the people here are just special people, and I appreciate that greatly. And you've always been a great example of that, JD. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Rob. And yeah, that's right. Rob is a old Camden boy getting to come back home for a visit. And you had 4 years here? 4 or 5?
About 8 months. But
it felt like 4. All right. Well, Anne Marie.
Well, I don't know how I'm going to top all these comments, except I will say this. Chris, you're not going to be the punching bag for much longer, because I imagine in July we're going to have a new commissioner, and you will not be the new guy anymore. So I promise we all do it because we love you. JD, who knew that my 6 years serving with you could go so fast? I remember in 2019, you being at my announcement with a big old grin on your face, hugging me. We barely knew each other. We kind of knew each other from serving on the board of the foundation. But one thing I remember is that we just became fast friends. And I'm always appreciative of that. And over the years, you and Beth have welcomed me to Camden, into your home, to turkey hunt, to deer hunt. And those experiences and, furthering my love of the outdoors and learning about, turkey and forestry and the importance of fire on the landscape. And honestly, kind of to the point where I am now and becoming a private landowner and wanting to do more habitat work and leave things better than I found it. It's all because of you and your influence. But most importantly, I count you as one of my dearest friends. And I truly mean that in so many ways. Philip wrote on here, one of the biggest words is faith. JD, you wear your faith on your sleeve. And, just like the pastor said, you will be out preaching to kids the gospel any chance you get. And that's had an impact on me, and you've strengthened my faith even. And that's one of the greatest gifts that I think that you've given me. So thank you for that. I can't wait until both of my girls get to come down to Aunt Beth and Uncle JD's and go on their first turkey hunt. It's going to be really, really special.
And I've got a little 20 gauge ready to go.
That's right.
You got to get your grandkids their first turkey with that.
Well, it's going to happen soon. I promise you. Ray Riley will. She'll chase one down. Y'all, this is just how full of energy and mischief she is. When Taylor got her to my house last night, in a matter of 1 minute and 10 seconds, she had found her way into my fountain out in the front, dove in, jumped out, went running by Taylor just laughing and giggling, threw her clothes off, and then rolled into the dirt pile that was out there. And Taylor just shook her head and she said, "Mama, I hadn't even been home a minute." And so little Ray Riley will certainly be out there hunting with me, I promise. Well, it's time to make this thing official. And we have one last item of business today.
One more song.
One more, no more songs. Our last item, as we conclude this meeting, is new business and the election of our FY26 Commission Chair and Vice Chair. Is there any new business, Commissioner Jones, that should be brought before this commission at this time?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion that the commission now accept nominations for and then elect a new chair and vice chair for the fiscal year 2026. And at an appropriate time, I would like to submit 2 nominations for this position.
All right, there's been a motion made to receive nominations for the election of a new chair and vice chair of the fiscal year 2025. Is there a second to this motion?
So moved.
All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion is approved. The floor is now open to receive nominations for new chairs. Are there any nominations for chair and vice chair?
Yes, sir. I would like to nominate Commissioner Anne Marie Doremus as chair and Commissioner Rob Finley as vice chair.
Okay. Are there any additional nominations? Hearing none, the nominations now will be closed. Commissioner Jones, you are recognized to make your additional motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we elect Commissioner Anne Marie Doremus as chair and Commissioner Rob Finley as vice chair for fiscal year 2026.
Is there a second to this motion?
I'll second that motion.
We have a second from Commissioner Tappan. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And hearing none, Madam Chair Doremus, you now have the gavel. It's going to be great.
You know, all these years on the commission, I've never held this or picked it up. I guess I kind of felt like it was bad luck. So it feels weird to finally have this in my hand. JD, as I mentioned last night, you've certainly left your mark, not just on the commission and on the state, but on all of our hearts. So thank you for your service, and it's been the honor of a lifetime to serve with you as chairman. So thank you.
We're going to do this formally, but I want to get a picture right now with you holding this and this knife and the symbolism of it. The Iron Sharpens Iron book are my parting words to you. But this knife and its symbolism means so much to me. As Marshall Hughes is a good friend of mine, his dad, Mr. Edwin, and I, we probably text or call each other at least once every 2 weeks. He is one of the finest men. If you don't know Mr. Edwin Hughes, you need to. He is a God-loving man. He poured into Marshall all those same characteristics of loving the outdoors. He's a great young man. And this is a good tribute to him. And this symbolism that we embody in this as commissioners, we all sharpen each other. From, as I mentioned last night, all the former commissioners to our current commission, to our staff, we all work together to make this a better place, to leave this state in a better shape. And I feel like we've had a wonderful last 7 years. So this goes over to you, Madam Chair, and as you begin your journey, I wish you the best, and we'll be praying for you and this commission as y'all go forward.
Thank you, JD. I really appreciate it, and What an honor to hold all these things in my hand. Here we go. I'll sit down. That's another thing that I haven't touched since we started this book. You know, I walk into Deke's office and I'd say, "Oh, is that the book, the chairman's book?" And he would say, "Yeah, you can take a look at it." And I said, "No, I'm not going to until it's my time." So I look forward to sitting down and reading all of these from Bobby and Stan and JD, and a year from now, writing my own message to Rob Finley. So it'll be here before we know it. Every time I look at this knife, I'll think of Marshall Hughes and his heart for conservation and his dedication to this agency and the Game and Fish Foundation. And I'll also think of the chairman that came before me, even the ones that didn't have the possession of this before 2020 when we acquired it. I'll think of all the greats, and I'll look to them for advice and inspiration, and of course, always encouragement. So thank you. So I look forward to serving as chairman this year. Fiscal year 2026 is going to be underway July 1st, and it's going to be a really great year. It's going to be even better because I'm going to have Rob Finley serving as my vice chair, as well as all these commissioners next to me, and a new commissioner coming on sometime in July. So it is a very, very exciting time for this agency. In July, we're going to dedicate the Joe Hogan Hatchery and unveil an exciting new program for our black bass anglers. I hope as many of you all are there as possible because it's going to be a great, great day. In November, we're going to move up to Fort Smith and go visit Frog Bayou, a project that went underway, I believe, my first or my second year on the commission, and has proven to be a very fruitful WMA for duck hunting, bird watching, and all sorts of things. We're also going to go to Monticello. We went there a few years ago. Actually, your chairman year, Bobby. And Lake Monticello, the renovation was underway. Well, we get to go back, and it has water, and not just any fish, but Titan bass in it. And so we are going to go do some bass fishing. JD, add that to your list too.
I'm coming back.
Yeah, it's not far. It's not far. Then also in the spring, we're going to continue our fishing tour and go to Hot Springs to the Halsey Hatchery. So very, very excited to do that. Maybe even make a trip over to Jack Mountain. So it's an exciting year. I can't wait to hit the ground running with all of you and all these commissioners by my side. And with that, we're adjourned.